Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at something from a different direction, namely Ainz, but instead of discussing another one of his strengths, his spells, his skills, his powers, or subordinates, we are going to focus on something that is often overlooked and comes a little short when discussing the Overlord of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, namely his weaknesses. But before we're going to take a look at it, I say thank you to my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as a great thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function who made one-time donations. Thanks guys. Now with that said, Ainz Ooal Gown has a surprising amount of weaknesses, but again, they are mostly overshadowed by all of his powers. For comparison's sake, let's say that you have a really bad haircut, but none of your friends will notice because you can shoot lasers from it. That's Ainz, just different. And the first set of weaknesses are explained in the first light novel, and even at the very beginning of it. And one of them is the weakness that is shared with all undead skeletons. First and foremost, a hard weakness against bludgeoning damage. While being unable to suffer critical damage because there are no more organs or weak spots left to damage on an undead skeleton, and while slicing and cutting damage is also greatly reduced because there is simply no flesh to cut. Bones can be crushed rather easily, especially when not supported and protected by meat, fat and muscles, and especially if they are old and brittle and lost all of the flexibility they had in life. The negative trait of bludgeoning damage vulnerability of the 5th mark is therefore one of the main disadvantages Ainz has, and that enemies will frequently exploit. Pandor's actor, while acting as Ainz, needed to spend half a dozen spells of Body of Effulgent Beryl, which is a 10th tier spell, that therefore undoubtedly comes with a hefty mana cost, just to grant him a one-time bludgeoning invulnerability, meaning all he got out of the spell was a 6x1 immunity to one single strike. And let's say if Platinum's armor had cursed Ainz with like 6 auto-attacking small hammers that were merely powerful enough to just do 1 HP of damage, even this strategy would be completely unviable. But of course, Pandor's actor had also claimed to be completely immune to bludgeoning damage. And after the 6th attempt or so, Platinum finally started to believe him. But had he been just a bit more persistent, just like Shizu Delta was in the 13th novel during her infiltration with Nea Baraya, then the strategy would also have failed. And suffering from one main weak spot also means that every melee fighter could exploit it. And even worse, everyone knows that bludgeoning type melee attacks are effective against the undead. So essentially Ainz Ooal Gown's entire body is a weak spot as far as his enemies are concerned. Which brings us to the second major weakness of the caster, namely that he is a caster and that he is therefore very vulnerable to any enemies that are melee specialist and make it into range. So if they have the means to bridge the distance between them and him, or if they can simply use ranged melee attacks. I know that sounds funny, but Platinum's armor was able to use levitating weapons against Pandora, so it is also something that could and in fact has already happened. Then Ainz would be in big trouble. And with Ainz Ooal Gown's comparably low speed and defense, this is an even greater weakness than you might have initially thought, since everyone, even close to Ainz Ooal Gown's power, would be able to eventually get close enough for melee attacks. Now Ainz, like in the previous example, has a variety of means to lessen the effects this disadvantage has. For example, he can summon a Death Knight, who then will at the very least withstand 2 attacks, and who are also able to draw the attention of the enemy onto themselves. And Ainz can summon other high-ranking summons that can engage enemies directly in melee for him, such as the Doom Lord for example, but they won't stand a chance against any high-level enemy on their own. Additionally, Ainz, while being able to fight as a melee specialist in his perfect warrior mode and therefore potentially able to hold his own in melee, is also quite susceptible to melee specialists, even in this form. The reason is that while he can fight as a level 100 warrior and can use the weapons of a warrior, including Touch Me's World Champion's armor, Ainz gets just to be a generic level 100 warrior. No special skills or abilities, nor any specialist character build that is min-maxed or something. Just a generic level 100 warrior. Which means that almost any halfway decent warrior on the same level as him will likely defeat Ainz in melee, and even Sheld here was confident that she could win against Ainz, even after all of the punishment she had already endured, despite not being even a full melee specialist herself. And someone on Cocutus's or Albedo's strength would be a nightmare to face for him, especially because, and this is the last weakness I wanna cover in this video, for there will be many more, is that Ainz can't employ his former favorite battle strategy to the same extent as an Yggdrasil. On the contrary, he loses this ability more and more, because Ainz usually wants to engage the enemy in a first explorative battle to test the skills and abilities of his enemy, to learn his fighting style, about his equipment and his weaknesses, while feigning weakness himself, only to then retreat, prepare, and engage in a second decisive battle, where Ainz will come with lots of counter against the enemy's strength, and some nice tools and prepared items to exploit his weaknesses. He did this in person in the bonus volume against Cure Elim, and by proxy as he sent Pandora's Actor to lose against Platinum's armor. But since he's the Sorcerer King, the figurehead of the biggest geopolitical threat since the appearance of the 8 Great Kings to the New World, and since he had defeated Yaldabaoth and fought Platinum already, even if he did so just by proxy, everyone wants to learn more about him, study him, his spells and abilities, to the greatest extent possible, and this will make it more and more complicated, if not impossible, to hide his strength and weaknesses while figuring out what the enemy can do, and where you can hit him hard. And with that said, I hope that I have given you some overview about some of the weak spots that Ainz Ooal Gown has, namely his entire body. And there's yet more to come in more videos. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Bedgar Yi, Ben C, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Sia, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Dystopia II, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Haster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, Chromius, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Okill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantom, Personage, Primus 11, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Texas Deer, the Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, and Zonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again on my next video.